President Biden's climate czar, John Kerry, has taken aim at farmers and ranchers, stoking fears earlier this month that addressing climate demands further regulations on the agricultural community. Here's just a short clip of what he had to say, clip 13.
A lot of people have no clue that agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions of the world. We can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center as part of the solution.
And what does that mean? They need to go away? Well, look, this is outrageous. And in response to this, 27 House Republicans have called on President Biden to disavow the former Secretary of State's attack on farmers and ranchers. Joining me now to discuss this and more is Congressman Mark Alford. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Agriculture Committee, and he is on the House Committee on Small Business. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Missouri. Congressman Alford, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much, Tony. I'll tell you who has no clue, and that is Kerry, the climate cult czar. He has a war on farmers. Part of this emissions that he's talking about is cow flatulence. Who cares? We have God's creation, trees, that absorbs this carbon dioxide and turns it into, guess what? Oxygen. And yet this climate cult is intent on ruining our country, driving our farmers into the ground, and we're not going to stand for it.
Well, there's a connection between agriculture and food and survival. I mean, they're actually doing something that we need. They're producing food.
Exactly. And we're working on the Farm Bill for 2023. It's going to be a big farm bill this year. About 80% of it's going to deal with these supplemental nutrition programs to feed our country. But really importantly, we need to protect our farmers. We need to have the safety net available to give them the security so they can keep on farming. Tony, did you know that 1,000 farmers a month quit their business or give up their farms each month in America? We cannot continue to have national security if we don't have food security. And it's not going to mean the government picking winners and losers and getting behind the big farms that buy up a lot of land and have a conglomerate that they can eventually control. This is about individual farmers passing on the heritage so they can pass on the food to us.
Right. Not even to interject into this conversation, foreign corporations that are buying up farmland that, as you say, becomes a national security issue. But in a letter that you and about 26, 27 of your colleagues sent to President Biden, you actually point out how technology has led the industry, the agriculture industry, to reduce emissions, that they're actually getting it done.
Exactly. There is nobody that's a better steward of their land than a farmer or rancher. Think about it. If they don't protect their soil, if they don't conserve, they won't have bigger and better crops with higher yields and more profits for them. God bless them for making a profit. My brother-in-law farms about 3,500 acres in our district. He is a great steward with the land. The equipment they have today outpaces equipment long ago. Lower emissions. Another issue that we're dealing with, farmers are dealing with, is the Waters of the U.S. Act. That's before the Supreme Court. We hope to have a sane ruling on that next month. Basically, the USDA and EPA flying drones over farmers' lands and declaring that those are waters of the U.S. And sometimes it ends up that those are ruts created by a combine that have filled up with water. That's not a navigable waterway. That's stupidity.
Yeah, I have another idea of something that should be put out to pasture. I think it's the climate czar, so that we can actually get back to letting farmers and ranchers do what they're called to do. Produce food so we can eat. Hey, I want to switch.
I wonder the last time that John Kerry was actually on a combine or out in a norm. I invite John Kerry right now, Mr. Kerry, fly down commercial on a plane to Missouri, and I will take you on my brother-in-law's farm. We'll get on that combine as we plant for this season.
Yeah, that's a picture I'd like to see. I just cannot picture him on any type of farm equipment. Or you can come down and ride my tractors. I got a few of them myself. All right, let me switch gears a little bit because you're on the House Armed Services Committee, and we see the Department of Defense, the Biden administration, politicizing a military decision when it comes to the location of America's Space Command over the issue of abortion. They are letting decisions about national security, national defense be driven by their preoccupation with abortion.
You know, it's crazy. The woke has made America broke in a lot of instances, and it's breaking our military. This decision was made by the Secretary of the Air Force in January of 21, 2 years ago, that the best, most logical, reasonable place for Space Command to go was Huntsville, Alabama. And now, since then, Alabama's come out with some of the strictest abortion laws in America, thank goodness, outlawing abortion. And they want to use that decision to take away the Space Command from Huntsville, Alabama. It's not happening. We have written a letter to the Secretary of Defense asking for some clarification on this. But more importantly, the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Chairman Rogers, has also told the Department of Defense to preserve all records. He wants to get to the bottom of how this happened and why they are being wishy-washy on this. We need to keep Space Command in Huntsville, Alabama.
Congressman, we're up against a break, but I have a feeling that this year's National Defense Authorization Act is going to be quite interesting coming out of the House with so many of the woke policies that you mentioned coming from the Department of Defense.
It is going to be interesting markup sessions, to be sure. I am a freshman on this committee. I've been told that this is a bipartisan committee, that we get along to make sure that our military is strong. I want to be a part of that, but we do face some challenges. We've got to get the diversity, equity, inclusion out of the military. We've got to keep our generals from acting like politicians and be the true military leaders that they can be and should be. And we also have to restore patriotism to our nation to get our young people to fight for our freedom, to fight for our democracy.
Well said. Congressman Mark Alford, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony. God bless you.